Hello, and welcome to a new series on this channel where I attempt to revive my first somewhat failed attempt at making an open-world survival game. 3 years ago, I set out to make the world's greatest survival game in a medieval fantasy setting, with everything from a dramatic storyline, quests, magic spells, melee combat, archery, hang gliders, procedural dungeons, swimming, lockpicking, just to name a few of the mechanics I had either integrated from marketplace kits or coded on my own. And well, I just sort of lost track of where I was going with the game. The realization that I had spent all this time and money and energy working on a game that in the end just really wasn't being played by anyone led to some time off to reflect on what I wanted to do next, while also diving deeper into my understanding of both Unreal 4 and the newly released Unreal Engine 5. It was during this time off from developing that I actually sat down and played some games in the genre I had been leaning towards with Age of Omens, and started paying close attention to what was actually fun, or wasn't, about all these survival games. As sort of an evolution to my learning more about the engine, thereby actually understanding what size and scope of game I'm capable of creating on my own, which is vastly different and much smaller than the one I had originally dreamed of creating. I now think I have a really good idea for a game that is both fun to play as well as achievable to create within a reasonable time frame. My plan with this new video series is to document the process of attempting to bring this new idea to life, while sharing my knowledge and insights about both Unreal Engines 4 and 5, so that other hopeful game devs might benefit from all that I have learned along my journey. If that sounds at all interesting to you, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell to be notified when a new video is released. And with that, let's get into how I plan on fixing this failure of an indie game. While the original Age of Omens was built on the Survival Game Kit number 1, the creator of the kit, Diffuse Studios, has since released a second version of the Survival Game Kit, which I feel would be a much better choice for the new version of Age of Omens. And while that is the case, just like the first Survival Game Kit, I'm not a fan of the stock animations or Blendspace, so that will need to be changed before I can start revamping melee and magic combat. Since I will likely be working with both Unreal Engine 4 and 5 in the future, my plan is to first work with Unreal 4.27 and then show the same process as it needs to be done in 5.1. I'd like to document the processes between the two engines, which will hopefully help anyone who's thinking of switching from 4 to 5, or just anyone starting to work with either version. So with that, let's get into changing the blend space around and getting some different animations in for the stock running locomotion. The first thing I'll have to do is start a new project. Okay, so now that we've got a brand new version of Survival Game Kit 2, I'm going to go in here and open up the blend space. And here's the animations that we want to get rid of. Okay, we're going to change a couple things around here. Okay, so on the number of grid divisions here, we're going to change to 16. Now I already have some animations ready to go. Okay, so I'll bring this other project in and show you a little trick with getting animations in from one project to another without having to retarget. If you don't already know, as long as it's the same skeleton, which in this case we're using the Unreal5 mannequin skeleton, so it's no big deal. So we'll just create a folder here. And on the project I want the animations from, with this project here where we want to get the animations from, just go Control A, and then we're going to export, find the folder, and just save all those. Now the one you want to import into, just go into the folder that you create to put them in, come up here to import, and you've got Control A to select all, hit OK, and then find the UA4 mannequin skeleton here, and then just hit import all. And now we've got all of our animations are already retargeted. We don't have to transfer skeletons or delete skeletons or physics assets and all that stuff. So it's a much easier way. Just don't transfer the skeleton, only the animation files. So back in our Blendspace, we've got our grid division set up. You can see when we drop an animation on the grid, depending on the speed or direction where this is at, is going to determine which animation it blends into. So if we hold shift and move the cursor around, I can show you if we're moving forward in a straight direction, walking, and as you pick up speed you have run and sprint. Now if we have direction going backwards, you see he starts running backwards. Now we just need to fill in the angles. Animation wise, on these division lines we have walk front right 45, front right, back right 135, and back. And then same with left, front left 45, front left, back left 135, walk back. Now we can change to run animations. On the right side here we have run front right, run back right, run front left, run back left, and it blends in between the run forward for the ones that I'm missing compared to the other ones. So if you can see, Even though we're missing the animation here, it does a nice job blending and creating it as long as I have both these runs. There's the walk. There's the run. So this is a nice way to set up your Blendspace if you want to take animations out of ALS version 3 to get these animations, which are capable of replication. Okay, so we gotta set a couple other things up before it's gonna work and look good. This is all good. First of all, we gotta set up our idle animation. We just got to set our speeds up. Now, one thing I'd like to do while I'm thinking about it, since this is a new project, is two things. Right away is in editor preferences. Make sure that auto save is turned off. I just find it to be annoying personally. It comes in and auto saves sometimes when you don't want it to. And then here in next to compile, this little triangle here, click that. This is just a personal suggestion. Save on compile. I always make sure that always saves on compile, so you don't have to hit save after compiling. You just compile and it automatically saves. Okay, so next I'd like to change this jump out. I don't like this, the jump idle in the middle. I think that looks a little better. So one last thing I'd like to do before setting this up in 5.1 the exact same way is to add one more animation that is actually going to be set up as a montage, which is the dodge animation. There's a couple reasons for that, but I'll get into that later. So the first thing we'll need to do for this one is set up an action map. So there's already a bunch here. We're just going to add one. Call it dodge and make it alt. left Alt for now. And then we can get out of there. Now come into the master character where the inputs are. We're just going to add a new input down here. And that will be the one we just made. So since these are going to be, this is going to be a replicated montage, we want to make sure that this is replicated on server and reliable, and then set to multicast and reliable. Okay, since I haven't actually created the montage, we'll have to do that next. So we'll enable root motion on this. After some reason, after importing, that's always disabled. So we'll have to enable that. Now we'll create a montage. Okay, there we go. So that's Unreal 4.27, the new Blendspace setup, and ready to go with the one dodge animation and a new jump idle. So I'm going to go do the same exact thing in 5.1. So we have just so I have two templates working at the same time in both engines. I can kind of do each step in both engines and compare them as we go. And I think this will be kind of interesting just to see where I run into problems and where I don't, and also just to see what the difference between the two engines are comparatively, doing the same processes side by side. So with that, I'll go and do the same process in 5.1, so we're working side by side. So one of the major differences I notice between 5.1 and 4.2.7 is the content drawer is a little different instead of the content browser, which is a dock you can kind of move around. I don't know if you can move this around yet. I haven't experimented with that yet. Normally I like to keep my content browser over in the details area, so it's kind of, I don't know, it's I guess an improvement over here. It's a little more out of the way. But anyway, if you want to search through all your files, it's already set up in the content browser how I usually set it up anyway, so I guess that is kind of nice. But we have 5.1 with the stock Blendspace and animation, so we'll change that around. Okay, so I did get a weird message that I didn't get before in 4.2.7 that the animation length is not compatible with 120 FPS subframe 0.307. I don't know what that means. Import failed, so what did we fail? We failed the dodge animation. So I'll have to find a different dodge that's not going to be possible to set up, but I'll set the rest of it up and see if I can maybe figure out what that is talking about, why in 5.1 that animation is not okay to import. So another thing I noticed right away here is trying to place the animations on the grids. I see you have to turn on snap to grid. So a few variations here, nothing big, no big deal. So you'll definitely want to turn on snap to grid for both directions. I didn't notice that. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to do this on the other one as well, is just the transition between movement back to idle. I just want to add a little duration to that. Like 0.4. Should look a little more natural. There we go. That way he's not snapping immediately to attention the minute he stops moving. Okay, so that's both engines, a new Blendspace setup. Now I'm going to continue working in 5.1 at least for a while until I get some of the basic stuff that I guess any game would have in it, or any type of survival game would have in it. And at some point I'm just going to continue on recreating Age of Omens in 4.2.7 only, so I'm not sure exactly what point I'll break off, but for now I want to keep working in both engines to get familiar with 5.1 and beyond, and to continue learning the differences between the two. So keep an eye out for new videos in the future, and thanks for watching.